Hey everyone, and welcome back to Michelin Man, where today we're going to be tackling the second recipe of the 11 Madison Park cookbook. Today we're going to be doing a chilled English garden pea soup with buttermilk and prosciutto crisp. Okay, to start off, we're going to slice our scallion on the bias. We're going to go down the whole thing, just the green parts only. Then we're going to take a cup of peas and we're going to blanch that with the scallions together. Once that is all blanched, we're going to take a blender. We're going to fill it with about a cup of milk, a few teaspoons of apple cider vinegar. We're doing this because we want to create our own buttermilk. Since I do not have any buttermilk, I'm going to have to make my own. Then we're going to pick about 10 leaves of mint. We're going to put the bunch to the side and we're going to wrap this little bit in a little ball. We're going to throw that into the blender. Along with the mint, we're going to throw in our blanched scallions, and then also our cup of blanched peas. Finally, we're going to add a drizzle of oil over the top, and then we're going to mix until thoroughly combined. Once that's done, you're going to want to put it into a container. But what I found is that it was a little too chunky. My blender didn't have the horsepower needed to grind it up super small. So I'm gonna go get a sieve and a giant bowl. So here we are, here's my bowl and our sieve. And we're just gonna simply strain the soup through the sieve, trying to get it as smooth as possible. Once that is all nice and strained, you're gonna wanna empty it out into your serving container, and you're gonna wanna place that in the fridge to rest until you're ready to serve. Okay, while that rests, we're gonna make prosciutto butter. To do prosciutto butter, you're gonna need, prosciutto. Just take any store-bought brand is fine, and you're gonna wanna trim off the edges, but leave a little bit of the meat onto the fat. You're gonna trim it up, and once it's done trimming, it's gonna look something like this. Okay, now we're gonna take this over to the pan, we're gonna make our butter. To make the butter, you're gonna wanna place the prosciutto in a ripping hot pan. You just wanna place it in chunks and let all the fat render and cook down until you get little crispy bits, and then you're gonna add around a cup of butter to the mix. You're gonna let the butter cook down, and then eventually it's gonna all render and cool. So while that's cooling, we're gonna make our buttermilk snow. To do this, you're gonna need to place about a cup of buttermilk in a bowl with some cayenne pepper, some salt, and you're gonna mix until combined, and then we're gonna place this in the freezer to let set. Okay, while that's setting, we're gonna make some pie dough. The recipe doesn't call for pie dough, but I'm gonna make it instead because it calls for store-bought dough. I don't believe that, so let's just make our own pie dough. To do that, we're gonna take about a cup of flour, we're gonna put it in a bowl. We're gonna add some salt, some baking powder. We're gonna whisk until combined. Then we're gonna add our prosciutto butter after it is nice and cold. Make sure not to get any of those chunks of prosciutto. We're gonna use that later for the crisps that these will make. Okay, we're gonna turn that out onto a work surface. We're gonna mix, and then we're gonna pour over a little bit of apple cider vinegar over the top to add a little bit of moisture and a little bit of water as needed. You're gonna knead this until it forms a nice tacky supple dough, and you're gonna cover it with plastic wrap. And then you're gonna form it into a disc and throw it into the fridge until set for about an hour. Once that is set, it should look something like this. You should be able to throw it on the surface without having to worry about it. You're gonna lightly flour your workstation. You're gonna turn the dough out on a lightly floured workstation and then roll it until thin. I didn't have a rolling pin, so I just used a mason jar that's been in the front the whole time. You wanna get it about 1/8 of an inch thin. I mean, the thinner it is, the crispier it'll get, and the less it will puff up. We don't want it super puffy because it's just gonna go on top of our soup at the end of the day. All right, so we're gonna place this in a parchment lined baking sheet, and we're gonna spread our prosciutto butter all over the top of it. Then we're gonna place the little chunks of prosciutto that you've been letting sit in the butter for about 2 hours now. We're gonna place that in, we're gonna fold it over almost like a calzone. And once that is all folded over, you're gonna transfer that into the middle of the baking sheet, roll it out until the original thinness of 1/8 of an inch, apply some more prosciutto butter on top, and then we're gonna pick that up and place it in the fridge until the prosciutto butter is set. We're gonna make our buttermilk gel. To do that, we're gonna need our buttermilk and some cornstarch. It calls for agar-agar, but I do not have that, so cornstarch is a perfect supplement. You need about a tablespoon of that. It's a 1-to-1 ratio of agar-agar to cornstarch. We're gonna let that cool in the fridge, and once that is cooling, we're gonna take out our resting pie dough, and we're gonna slice it into nice crisps, because at the end, we're gonna slice it into nice crisps. We're gonna place these on a lightly floured baking sheet with parchment paper, cover them with some more prosciutto butter, And then now we're gonna put them in the oven for 20 minutes at 425 degrees. Once the buttermilk gel is set, we're gonna scrape it into a food processor and we're gonna blend it until combined, and it should give you kind of a syrupy jelly consistency, sort of like this, what you see here. And then we're gonna go put that in the fridge until ready. So now that everything's ready, we're going to pour our buttermilk gel into a piping bag. We're gonna put that to the side, then we're gonna take some mint and we're gonna try to snip it up into some nice decorative pieces to place on top of our crisps. You're gonna wanna do the same thing with a bunch of mint leaves and chives. You want the chives to be very small. Okay, so now that everything is ready to get plated, we're gonna scrape up the frozen buttermilk snow mixture. We're gonna place our prosciutto crisp on top. We're gonna pipe our buttermilk gel on top of it. Then we're gonna place our chives and our mint leaf on top of the buttermilk gel. Then we're gonna place a spoonful or two of our buttermilk snow right in the middle of our pea mixture. And then that's it. So now let's taste it. Kind of disappointed, not gonna lie. It was an okay soup at best. It was not my thing. Let's see if it tastes better with the crisp. I mean, yeah, the crisp tastes insane. I mean, it's just prosciutto butter and pie dough. All right, gotta get started on the next recipe. See you then.